your children tonight. Who was your first child? Who was the oldest child?
Robert Bobby. He was the oldest.
Okay, so Bobby's the oldest.
Charles Hoyt came along a year and a half later. Then Texie Ann came on a year and a half after that. I had 3 children for 9.5 years. And then Sarah surprised us. She came along.
Were they all born? They were all born here, obviously, in Mobile.
Yeah, all born Providence Hospital in Mobile.
Oh, okay. Who was their doctors? Do you remember who their doctors were that delivered them?
Dr. Leon McVeigh delivered Texie and Charlie, and Dr. McGee delivered Bobby. And then Dr. McVeigh delivered Sarah. 9.5 years later. And
were they all fairly easy pregnancies and births, or
all natural.
Yeah.
Birth.
Did were they named? Were any of the children named after other relatives?
Bobby was named after his daddy, Robert Savage Jr. And Charles Hoyt was named after his Uncle Charlie and his Uncle Bob Yo. The Hoyt was for him, a family name. And the only one that I named was Bobby. My husband named the rest of them. He just came out and that didn't make any difference to me. He said Texie would be named after his sister, and I said, yeah, but I can't go Texie Anna after his mother and Texie. And so we named her Texie Ann.
Wow.
And Sarah was named for Frankie. Sarah Francis right after. I think she'd have been disappointed if Robert hadn't. But Robert, that wasn't me. I didn't say anything. He said, well, she's going to be Sarah Francis. So I said, okay.
Wow. So you just went right along. Were all the children fairly healthy when they were born?
Yeah.
No problems with health?
Except Bobby had flat feet. Flat feet, he still has flat feet. I mean, he doesn't wear any supports in his shoes or anything, but he passed getting in the Air Force. I don't used to. For a while, they weren't taking soldiers in with flat feet, because I know Robert Hoyt had flat feet, and he had to hold his feet up to get into the Navy. I think they're a little bit more strict anyway than. And he couldn't be a surgeon on account of his feet being flat. At least he thought he couldn't stand on them that long.
Yeah.
So he was just a heart doctor.
What was it like bringing home a child from the hospital?
See, we stayed 10 days.
10 days?
10 days. A flat rate for maternity patients was $40 for 10 days.
Wow.
And they took care of the baby. You had to bring the baby's clothes with their little T-shirts and their nightgowns, and they dressed them with, they bring their clothes, but 10 days for $40.
Wow. They kick you out after 10 minutes these days.
They'll let you in the front door for $40 too.
My goodness.
That's how much. But then when you weren't making very much money, you had to save up, pay for that.
Wow.
I think it went up to about about a little bit more when Sarah was born. I can't remember exactly what it was. But then the doctors only charged you $50 for their fee.
So you paid $40 for the hospital?
It didn't cost, maybe it didn't cost much, $40.50 for the doctor.
Golly. But you paid the doctor separate from the hospital?
Yeah, oh yeah. They didn't include the doctor's bill, but they took care of you that 9 months for $50 now.
Oh wow, that included the
Well,
prenatal.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was all included for maternity rate.
Well, how about that?
Well, some doctors charge more, but Dr. McVeigh he was a doctor that when his patients would come in his office, they wanted to, well, he took black patients in too. Some of the doctors they'd come in and sit in another room and they'd hand him $1. He just put it in his pocket, then send him a bill.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. It's something we don't even think
Good
about.
old days.
Wow. Well, as far as how were you affected, and you and your husband affected by having a baby? Was it a big change in your lifestyle? Or?
Well, no. We had paid babysitters. We didn't have any problem because we had the other Mema she never did mind. Well, they'd just go on to bed. She'd keep them when she was here. And Frankie kept them. Yeah, Robert's mother was called Mema too.
Okay.
So the children's great-grandmother was Mema. That was what she was called.
So she...
And she was...
Did you enjoy being a mother? And,
yeah, I enjoyed it, except sometimes I'd get awfully tired taking care of when Texas came along, and 3 of them. So Bobby wasn't but 3 when she was born. And that was like, Susie's got those 3. That's the reason it's kind of, y'all were lucky. Hannah and Adele weren't enough apart that they weren't babies when. Well, of course, they wasn't that far apart, but all they do is argue now.
They'll get over that. Well, when you were pregnant, do you remember having any strange food cravings or anything?
No.
Do you have morning sickness or anything really bad? No?
No.
No good stories about that?
I think people imagine a lot of that. And they have time to think about it. I didn't have time to. Bobby was very active, like Gavin. Like Jason was. Jason was an active kid too.
Wow. Well, let's see. So, which of the boys, they both, Charlie and Bobby both favor their dad pretty well, don't they?
Oh,
One of them look more like their dad.
Well, during World War II, they had to work so many hours, and every hour that he was home, they sat in this living room and talked to him. And I'd get so outdone. I'd be cooking dinner and all, and sometimes he had to work on the weekend. But if he was off Saturday and Sunday, they didn't leave him a minute. And I'm glad that happened because they didn't. And then Sarah, she did not. He took her if he left to go to get car oil change or something. She went everywhere he went. From the time she was about a year old, so he just took her with him because she.
How old were the children when their daddy passed away?
Sarah was 5, and Texie was 14, and Robbie was 17. Charlie was 15, 16 and a half. So they didn't have him.
It must have been really hard. Did you had family, his family or your family around? Did they really come through for you at that point? Is there anything?
Well, the day he died, his mother had already passed away, and he had gone to the cemetery. And he went by himself that Sunday. We'd go, Sarah and I were going to go with me. And I said, we were going to go out to Frankie's. And I said, he said, I'll go on by myself. And he went by himself and stopped by his brother's house. His brother was living in West Lawn. And he stopped by there to see Charles. And Charles didn't go with him either. He went by there and Charles had something to do, and so he went on by himself to the cemetery. And he came by Charles and he told Charles he had a pain and said, I'm going on home and rest. And so Charles got to thinking after he left. So he came on down here to see about him. And we called the doctor. And then he just had that one heart attack. Mm. Going down the steps, he was still conscious and all when he got to Catherine Street. Right when he turned into the hospital, he died. Mm. Just had that one heart attack. And so when we got to the hospital, the children and I, we didn't think he was that sick. And we didn't take Sarah with us. Took her across the street to the neighbors. And we got back. So wow. It was hard, but
yeah.
Any time when you have a death, I think it's hard. But that was so fast, too. We just really kind of were in shock because it wasn't but about an hour, and that was old Dr. McVeigh. We called, and that's when nowadays you couldn't get a doctor that quick, and he lived right out here on Dolphin Street, across from Trinity Church. That's where he lived. And he got up from the dinner table and came. And so he was here, and then he said, well, we got to take him to the hospital. He thought, that maybe it was just, wasn't that bad.
But, wow. Well, it sounds like he really loved his children.
Oh gosh, he thought they were, and what was, he couldn't, working at night, a lot of things that honors and they had and all, he couldn't see them, but when he thought they were great. Well, they went along good. I didn't have any trouble with them.
No.
I mean,
well, that's too bad. I was hoping you'd have a lot of good stories about bad things they did as children.
Well, they did some mischievous things, but
did they play pranks with their friends or anything particularly funny that you can remember that they did as children?
Well, one thing that the grandmother thought was very funny, they were right up on the corner. They were beating this little boy up. And this little guy, well, my mother-in-law said, well, we got to stop that. And they came back and they said, well, we beat him up because he was cussing. But said, that's all right, he's a Baptist. They didn't know what a Baptist was. So that's all, I guess, because he's a Baptist. He doesn't know. And this one guy said, well, the Baptist, she was Presbyterian and then went to the Baptist church with her son, but she was Presbyterian Baptist. She said, well, they don't cuss either. But she said, I guess that's all right, Mema, because he's a Baptist. He wasn't really committing sin because he was a Baptist.
Now, who did that? That was Bobby and Charlie?
Bobby and Charlie. And then the little boy next door, three of them were jumping all over him because he was cussing. I don't think they even remembered. I don't know exactly how old they were. So he was a Baptist.
Wow. Well, do you remember any times when you were particularly proud of anything that they did, other than beating up the Baptist children?
Oh, they were not. Well, Texie, she was 5. We got that picture of them. They came out, all the supervisors at the Alabama, the photographer was taking pictures of them coming out. And it was Christmas week, so I had to go to school. They were having a play before the photographer was going to come take them all on the Christmas tree. And I was sitting there, and here comes Texie walking out to the front of the stage, and I thought, oh gosh, she wasn't supposed to do that. And she starts singing all by herself. Something like Adele surprised me Sunday of her just singing. I thought about that. And she had a solo, and I didn't know anything about it. But in the kindergarten class, she came out, and then they made real good grades. All of them did at school. And Charlie, when he was in 6th grade, they had a coronation at school. He was a knight in that, but then on top of that, he won the oratorical contest for the Optimist Club. And I went to hear that downtown. And he competed with this, came out 2nd in that. And the boy that won it was, let's see, what was his name? Anyway, he was in high school. And if he had not gone to the state finals, Charlie would have taken his place. He'd have been the alternate. And gosh, I sat there, and he had been coached by one of the priests over at school. I didn't know that either, because he didn't even, he kind of had not an impediment, but I mean, you couldn't understand him when he talked. Sometimes he talked real fast or something. And when he got up there, I didn't believe, I kept looking to see where the sound was coming from. And he really surprised me, but he had been, he had been the speech at some, what university was it? I don't know, but that's what he'd been before he came to St. Mary's, and he really knew how to coach it. So, and then they won. They were real outstanding at school. Bobby was the king of St. Mary's in the coronation. Charlie the next year. In fact, the boy that was got 1 vote more than he did, I think. So Charlie was first night. Marvin Uphouse, and the odd thing of it is, a house that Charlie is living in, he built that house, and then he was married to a waterman girl, a waterman steamship wife. Well, they sold the house, and Charlie bought it, and he went to Spring Hill College, and he was real smart, outstanding. I don't know what's happened to him this year, but Charlie had forgotten about that. So the day I said that you're still living in your rival's house, and there was only one person that had lived in that house when Charlie bought it, so it wasn't like it was a
right.
And so then.
So
Bobby played baseball for McGill, was kind of not good. His head dice, but he was pretty outstanding, and won his full scholarship to Spring Hill for being a shortstop.
So what about Sarah?
Sarah, she just was kind of, she was, she was a cheerleader, and she made real good grades, but she didn't make all A's like they did. But she always said, well, it's because she didn't go to kindergarten. I didn't think she needed to go. See, I let Charlie walk over there by himself. He wasn't but 4.5. But he was real, you could depend on him. And I didn't know whether to let Sarah. So the little girl next door was younger than Sarah, but she didn't go either because I said, well, they got one another to play with, and they just played back and forth. She was either over there or over here. So she said, when she got in the first grade, she said, she didn't get to go to kindergarten, but she did all right.
Yeah, she's done pretty well.
Yeah.
All of your children, in fact, they've all gone to college?
No, that was their daddy's request. The last word she said to me going down the steps, said, I won't let them, promise me I'll all finish school. And they all finished.
Wow. That's amazing.
So he had.
And let's see, you've had, they've had military service as well?
Charlie was in the NROTC through Marquette and served. And then, of course, he got that stomach trouble. So he didn't active duty, but he served all 4 years while he was going to college. He went to Monaco. He went to, I've forgotten where they went. And he had St. Lawrence Seaway. He got to go to that dedication while he was in the NROTC. So he got to travel quite a bit. And then Bobby, the day after he graduated, he left to go to the Air Force. And then he went in active duty for 20-something years, and he came back and was a school teacher. Taught for 20 years. So they had dedicated lives, I guess you'd call it.